Hey everybody, Rorree here, back for another story. It is story time. I am Isis. That's the name of this story series. I don't know what part we're on. I'll just put it up there, okay? All right, but today I was guided to just share with everyone stories about me, stories of this journey that I've been on, stories of situations that I've experienced, stories, just me being real and candid about myself on this journey. So first I want to start with the fact that knowing that I am the incarnation of Isis did not impact me in a way that, like, my friends would think that, girl, you're Isis. What are you tripping off of? This is how they would feel. But me, I have real situations, I have had real struggles, on this journey. And I would think that, why would I be having these struggles if I'm the incarnation of Isis? Why? Why would I have so many doubts? Why would I have had this as a human experience? So these are things that I have asked myself, I've recently learned why I've gone on this journey. And I know that many times in my life, as I've had trials and tribulations, I recognize that they were so that I could help others. Because every time I learned something about myself or learned something on this journey, I always would give back. I always give back to others, and everything that I've learned helps me to help somebody else, with a similar situation or what have you. But I just want to say that I have not felt like I'm this perfect magical being that can do everything and I could just say abracadabra and whatever. It has not been like that at all. I know the earlier parts of my life were kind of like that. Like when I was younger, I could say I wanted something and then I'd have it. And everything came so simple when I was younger. But then after, I think maybe I was in my late 20s, things shifted a little bit. And at that time, I did not know of my gifts and everything. I didn't know at that time. So I just wanted to share that this has been a doozy of a journey. I've always believed in intuitive people ever since Miss Cleo was out. I'm dating myself. Ever since they had the psychic friends and the psychic hotline that cost, I forget how much it used to cost, but I do recall calling them a few times. So I mean, I have spent a pretty penny on intuitive guidance. I have had spiritual coaches, spiritual guides, spiritual healers for decades now. And I would go to them, and oftentimes I'd go to them for guidance and for validation. Later on in my journey, it was more for validation because I would have cognitive knowing, but I still wasn't positive. I wasn't sure that what I knew was actually correct, So I've spent so much money on going to intuitive people for them to tell me everything I already knew, And, it's been something like, for years, I would add it up, and it was so, I kid you not, I was spending so much money because I was going to intuitive people for guidance at least once a month. And sometimes more than that, especially if I was having a problem or a challenge. So I don't want you to look at me and think that I'm this perfect person just because I'm the incarnation of Isis. I've had a serious human experience here, and it hasn't been always pretty. I've had many, many trials and tribulations. I bumped my head many, many times. I've climbed up ladders. I fallen down ladders. I've gotten to the point where I was a multimillionaire, and then I fell all the way back down to a point where I was in a welfare office trying to get food stamps. So, to fall from being so high, so I thought, to being so low, so I thought, was very humbling, and then to crawl my way back up, that this has been a journey. And I'm telling you, it hasn't always been pretty. There have been times when people around me went to jail, people around me went to jail and I didn't, and not that I was doing anything wrong, but the people around me weren't deliberately doing anything wrong. Well, a couple of them were, but, but I didn't know at the time, but, it's like, but I was protected from all of that. I remember when a company that I owned was under investigation because of some shady dealings of one of the people working with us. And they interviewed all of the investors. They interviewed everybody. And one of the last ones to get interviewed was my mother. And she asked the agent, she said, I have a question. Has my daughter come up in this? Because she's like scared for her child, and she asked, has my daughter come up in this? And he told her, yeah. In every interview, they ask about me. I mean, why wouldn't they? It was part of my company, and she said, and what has come up, and the agent told her that every single person they interviewed, and they interviewed over 1,000 people, every person they interviewed gave the same scenario of a story about who I was within the company and what I did and what I represented and what I stood for. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. That is divine protection the whole time. And I mean, if I could tell you the stories, and I am going to tell you the stories, but not all in one setting, but that was divine protection, because the other people served time, several people served 5 years. One person not served, but is serving. The 5-year people are finished. But, the people that got 20 years, one person who was doing nefarious things, he got 30 years, but he was doing nefarious things. He's the reason why everything went to shit. But, well, I shouldn't blame it all on one person, because, we should all take responsibility for our actions. And even if, you allow a nefarious one into your camp and this person is nefarious, then you have to take some responsibility for what he did. You know what I mean? And if what he did caused a catastrophe, then that's just that. But I'm going to end on that note, and I'm going to continue in the next one.